Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, and welcome to our live Texans-Jags postgame show. Robert with Sports Radio 610, Shaun Bijani. Well, Shaun, they've lived on a razor's edge for 4 weeks. They finally got. I guess that's the polite way to sum it up. But you know, Shaun, it's tough to win in the NFL when you play 11 versus 18. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. This one was weird. I don't know if you'll ever see another one like this one. Week to week, all games are a little bit different. I can't tell you if I've ever seen a game end like the one did today, where a guy who you have zero confidence in going out there kicking even a 40-plus yard field goal, a 58-yard field goal to tie it, and it's probably the kick of his life. I so badly wanted to ask Matt Amendola about that after the game. I just didn't know how to phrase it without sounding like a jerk as usual. But he couldn't have kicked it any better. This was the epitome of every inch matters, every foot, every yard, and the Texans fell one short.
Yeah, and we'll get into more of that whole decision and what got into it, but get in the comments. What did you think of that decision? What did you think of other decisions in this game? Let us know. Stroud, 26 for 36, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, 4 sacks. That was big. Stroud, also the Texans' leading rusher with 47 yards. Singletary and Pierce, only 11 total carries for 32 yards. Shaun, that's it.
Yeah. That was pretty crazy, and I thought it was going to be a lot different early on. It looked like the Texans could go pretty heavy Singletary. I mean, he was making plays out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Showed some juice earlier in this ball game, with a really strong run. And I thought we had an answer to the question coming into this game, knowing that Dameon Pierce was going to be ready and healthy and good to go again. It was pretty understandable that, hey, Singletary is your one and Pierce is your change of pace guy. And I just think the Jags defense made it incredibly difficult to do anything, operate at all behind the line of scrimmage. The 4 sacks, as you mentioned, by Stroud, if you would have told me 10, I probably would have felt right. He was running for his life all day. And I'd never seen this level of escapability, elusiveness from CJ Stroud. I mean, earlier I thought, hey, this is Georgia 2.0. But it went even beyond that. It was an absolute game changer for what CJ Stroud did on the ground, just ultimately. And unfortunately, it wasn't enough. But it sure as hell kept the Texans in a game in which maybe they had no business being in.
Yeah, I want to connect the dots a little bit later on the pass rush and the running game and all that sort of stuff. But also got to mention Nico, 7 catches, 104 yards and a TD. Tank Dell, 5 catches, 50 yards and a TD. Get in the comments. Let's hear from you like we do every week. We're going to go unpack it possession by possession. Shaun, and Texans' first possession, they're forced to punt near midfield when Stroud can't find anybody on 3rd and long. Jags' first possession, they drive down the field for a field goal. Texans' secondary, not looking great. More on that in a second. But next offensive possession, a Shaq Mason holding penalty puts them in a hole. Stroud overthrows Tank, who'd gotten open downfield on 3rd and long, and a great scramble and throw. Texans D much tighter in their next chance. Quick 3 and out. Shaun, the big play when the Texans get the ball back, Stroud hits Tank on a 50-plus yard throw. But there was a flag for illegal shift by Tank. He was in motion. Nobody else looked in motion. Did you understand that play?
I didn't, and I want to talk about it a little bit because I was asking everybody sitting next to me in the press box, like, hey, what does this mean? And I'll take you through it. Obviously, if you go back and you look, and I'm sure we all saw the play a couple of 3 times, Tank moving laterally turns up the field. My question was, can't you move laterally before the ball is snapped? without turning upfield. I think the referees said illegal shift in that he was in motion while the ball was snapped, but I thought you could go in motion before the ball was snapped without stopping. You just couldn't go upfield before the ball was snapped. And I was thinking about it like, well, what the hell is the difference between a play like that and a jet sweep where it's usually, if it's executed this way, a pass, where it's kind of a pop, quarterback gets the snap, pops it to whoever's running across. That is a pass. What's the difference between a jet sweep in motion during snap and you going left to right motion before the snap? I think it was because he turned up just slightly before the ball was snapped, and that's what was called. But the thing about it is, referees let that type of stuff go all of the time. This game today felt like the referees had gotten a memo on X, Y, and Z, and they were hell-bent on executing, some maybe what we would deem ticky-tack calls. And I thought we saw a lot of those today, and unfortunately, it cost the Texans a handful of times.
Yeah, Shaun, I know when you went to this game today, the one thing you told me before you left the house was, hey, I'm going to see the referees today. I want to see some flags. I got to see these guys in front of the camera. We're going to get into more of their stuff in a second. On the Dell play, Titus is hurt after the Jags had already lost Cam Robinson. So a couple of big injuries to the tackles. Maybe they kind of evened out. Titus's injury looked serious, so the just activated Juice Scruggs replaced him. Texans forced a punt after another 3-and-out. Shaun, you could see the Texans O-line struggling early, I thought. And this was a thing that would happen throughout the game. The Texans O-line, pass protection, the whole game was an issue.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Titus Howard went down on the Texans' fourth offensive possession, right? When they were down 10-0, and Juice came in on their first touchdown drive, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not he came in after Titus got hurt on the Tank Dell big throw. But what happened there was it turned into a 3-and-out because
that's right. Yeah, that was a possession before. Okay. That was the possession before. So that was their third offensive possession. So as soon as Juice Scruggs came in the ball game, I thought the offensive line looked that much better because they pulled Juice twice. They used him to double team once, which it wasn't really great with Michael Dieter, but they were doing some different things, and it was you could clearly see that. So I thought, we would start to see a little bit more of an aggressive offense, kind of like it turned into, where CJ's doing more a little bit off schedule. Just I didn't anticipate that much. I thought Juice played a really good game today for prepping much of the offseason at center, and then coming back just this week as a full participant in practice for the first time in since the Saints game. So however many weeks that was, 12 weeks, 13 weeks. I thought it was pretty damn good going into play a position that he probably wasn't anticipating playing, at least while Titus Howard was healthy. And a quick side note, by the way, you mentioned Titus Howard going down. Maybe good news. I saw him in the locker room after the game. He had a sleeve on his left leg, sitting down, chilling, seemed to be in a, fairly good mood for a guy who had to leave the game early with an injury and, be carted, into the locker room. So I think certainly something to keep an eye on and not necessarily all doom and gloom yet in terms of the future and the health status of Titus Howard.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Juice Scruggs thing in a bit, but look, Dieter did not look good today. Larry Tunsil, it was a mess. I'm going to talk about Larry Tunsil a little bit later, but let's go to the next Jags possession. 43-yard screen to Johnson puts the Jags inside the 10, but looked like Houston Carson made a nice play on 3rd and goal. But Shaun, he gets called for what a lot of fans thought was a questionable interference. Lawrence scores on the sneak. They're up 10-0, but should they have been up 10-0?
The play, the call on Carson, I'm trying to remember if I thought that was kind of ticky-tack. I think that was probably pretty legit. The two that I really thought were bad were the back-to-back ones on Tavi or Thomas, which we'll get to. But
yeah,
look, at that point in time, when you're giving up chunky plays, it's very difficult to keep a team out of the end zone, especially this Jaguars offense with Trevor Lawrence, who isn't going to give many teams an opportunity to get in the backfield and affect what he's doing in his operating procedure. That sucker got rid of the ball so damn fast, it was like ridiculous. Credit to him in their offense, their route trees, the way that they got Ridley, Zay Jones open early and often, just with little crossing routes and quick slants. I mean, they were so damn fast off the line. It was tough. So I mean, shouldn't they have had 10 points or not at that point? I don't know. It's just as the game went along, yeah, I could hear that argument. Like the referees were certainly imparting their position on the game more.
Kobe said he blames the refs. They're trying to sell the Jags to London. Whatever. I think London is already sold on the Jags. But next Jags possession, 43-yard screen to Johnson, puts the Jags inside the 10. Let's go ahead. I was already on that one. Let's go to the next possession. Texans respond. Big screen play to Singletary, very similar to the Jags' last drive, puts the Texans inside the 10. This is the drive you're talking about, Shaun. Scruggs was incredible. He was very good throughout this drive. He made some key blocks.
Yeah.
And Stroud finishes it off with that scramble and touchdown to Tank. But Shaun, with Scruggs, I don't know if it's not a blessing in disguise to have him at guard over Titus. I don't want to see Titus get hurt, but that could be a blessing in disguise. Although, like I said, Dieter wasn't good today. You kind of wanted Stroud to replace Dieter on the offensive line and maybe improve there and get him to the position that you drafted him for. But man, it seemed like it was a big, look, when I was watching Scruggs, I saw him pushing guys 3-4 yards down the field. And what I didn't understand, and David says, didn't understand the fact that Dameon Pierce was splitting carries with Singletary. I just think they went away from the run early because Titus, as usual, wasn't doing a good job. The whole offensive line wasn't doing a good job. But when Scruggs came in there, I think you should have run behind him more.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was clearly a part of the Texans' game plan against the Jaguars today in terms of how they were going to attack them offensively. I think they'd ran the ball twice within their first 10 plays. So it clearly, at that point in time, wasn't going to be a big part of what they were doing offensively. They were using the pass to set up the run. And unfortunately, look, you get down early and they felt like maybe they just couldn't get back to it, or things were working so well off schedule that they figured maybe they could exploit the Jags defensively there a little bit more. But I mean, yeah, sure. Like, I think we all kind of anticipated if Juice Scruggs was going to play in a football game, it was certainly going to be at center for the first time. But hey, look, stuff happens. And I asked Juice Scruggs about it after the game. I said, hey, you had a good week of practice, came back, full participant. Were you even anticipating playing today? And he said, well, I was anticipating being the next man up. And I said, kind of tongue in cheek, but it's true. Like, you got that down pretty good because that's how you got the damn job to begin with. Once Quessenberry went down, it was kind of bada bing, bada boom, and you're the dude, and you did a great job at it. What was it like playing left guard? And he said, hey, look, there's still some issues. I could have played better. It's going to be interesting seeing what the Texans do this week. How they grade Michael Dieter at center, if they feel like Juice is just more of a natural and effective fit at the center position. And if he is, who's better at left guard if Titus can't go? Is it going to be Josh Jones or is it going to be Michael Dieter? Do they go in a different direction?
Well,
an interesting follow.
That's the thing, though. If they thought Josh Jones was a better option, then he would have come in at guard in this game. Fair. Instead of Juice, because he's been around, he's been there. So yeah, I don't see that. I think Juice is playing guard unless for some reason Titus is coming back and then maybe he moves over to center. But either way, you're getting better on the offensive line with Juice Scruggs in there. Either way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Now, look, you want Titus Howard to be okay. You don't want him to miss any significant amount of time. Certainly. If it's an MCL, if it's an ACL, I mean, who knows? It's one of those difficult things. Typically, if it's something like that, you're not seeing that dude in the locker room right after the game. He's getting scanned and, checked out, and he's not there. We'll see.
Only 6 weeks left, by the way.
Yeah,
just
only 6 weeks left. Only 6 weeks left, and I think the Texans only have like one spot on IR to designate a guy to return. So, we'll see. It's a big week for Titus Howard for sure.
Jags offense drives into field goal range, but Will Anderson makes a big tackle for loss on 3rd and long. Steven Nelson, good coverage in the end zone, forces a field goal. Shaun, it's at this point that I can hear the Texans fans affecting the Jags offense. Yeah. And I haven't heard it like this in years. Nice job, Texans fans. That sounded like NFL football crowd, and that was great.
It did. And to be honest with you, it was probably 6,000 to 10,000 light in terms of having all the seats filled. It was one of those scattery kind of attended games. But the fans that were in the building today, they made it sound like 72,000 strong, screaming at the top of their lungs. And I'll tell you what, on that defensive stand, it was huge for the Texans to hold the Jags to just 3 points in that instance for me, because you started to see offensively how it was going to be pretty damn difficult for the Texans to operate. And you're thinking, like, at that point in time, hey, look, Titus is down. You don't know what it's going to look like in totality with Scruggs. And are they ever going to get this run game going? Can Stroud continue to run for his life and scramble all day? To me, that was huge. And that whole defensive stand towards the end, after they'd gotten that first down, it was really, the tone was set with Will Anderson in that 6-yard TFL, because that brought life back into the stadium. Anderson was jacked up, just trying to juice the crowd up. I thought that was a big time play in that drive, and really a big time play in that first half for the Texans.
Yeah, and it looked like the Texans might have a little momentum at this point. Yeah. And about 14 things happened in the last couple of minutes of the half, Shaun. Yeah. Stroud does his usual great job, 2-minute drive. He's so good on these 2-minute drives. First half, second half, doesn't matter. But on 3rd down, the sideline passed the Tank a little too high. And man, if Stroud hits him there, that's big. Tank sideline footwork. We don't talk about it enough. It's awesome. It was awesome in college. I heard a scout talking about it, but he just wasn't tall enough to keep his feet on the ground. I think the replays got it right. That's huge, because Amendola's terrible beyond 40 yards. As Robert keeps telling you and reminding you over and over again. I hate saying I told you so on this, but he misses from 50.
Well, stay there real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
That play on the sideline was huge. The referee on top of the catch initially called it a catch. The referee behind the play, towards the line of scrimmage, is the one that conferred with the ref that called it a completion. That was huge, because the more and more they showed that replay, to hear the reaction, not just in this stadium, but in the press box, if that's called a catch on the field, I think it's pretty damn impossible to overturn that call. And that's why they spent so damn long looking at that play. They looked at it forever. And initially I was like, God damn it. He didn't get 2 feet down. But the more and more you look at it, you couldn't disprove it. You didn't see the black pebbles pop up, from dragging his right toe, but you couldn't for sure say he didn't catch that ball. That was huge, not only because the Texans had to settle for a 50-yard field goal attempt in that instance, but because of what you said. CJ Stroud, 2-minute drive, the guy's absolute money. Who's to say, if that's a completion, Stroud doesn't go bada bing, bada boom, and there's 6 points on the board? Or maybe they get stopped a little short and they're able to get an easier field goal attempt, and it's a 13-10 ball game going into the half.
Exactly. And I know, I see in the comments, there's somebody that's talking about, let me find it again. They talked about that was a catch. Beast Mode says that was a catch. No, I didn't think it was a catch. I thought it's right. I thought the inside foot. I thought the inside foot was off the ground. I'm trying not to look at things through a Texans lens. And look, I had issues with the officials. You're going to hear them more and more as this show goes on. I've already said it was 11 against 18, but that one was right. It was right. And I think either way, his foot's off the ground. But anyway, this could have turned into a 10-point swing easily because Tavierre Thomas beat badly by Kirk for 50 yards. But Shaun, 2 huge tackles by the Texans slot corners make 2 huge tackles. Thomas barely keeps Kirk from scoring at the 1. He could have given up on that play. He was fighting till the very end. And then on 4th down, what a stuff by, of all people, the new old guy, Desmond King, was the guy right there.
And he should have been the guy in the entire second half, because it didn't matter if it was a linebacker, if it was a slot corner, if it was a corner. There wasn't anybody that could hold Christian Kirk or Calvin Ridley in this game for the Texans. And anytime, Tavierre Thomas was on top of either one of those guys, he was getting cooked. I don't even care about the pass interference, flags that he was called for. I don't care. Aside from those, dude was getting scrambled like eggs all day. And I thought D'Amico had to make an adjustment. And, look, we'll ask him about it on Monday. Maybe he was asked about it already after the game today. I didn't go into the press conference. I go to the locker room. Maybe he did, and it just didn't work. I didn't see it. I don't know if anybody saw it. I just didn't think you could allow Tavierre Thomas to be on the field in those situations over the top of, slot receiver who was Kirk, over the top of Ridley, who they freaking motioned him to at one point in time in the second half. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing? And that was luckily the start of step 3 or step 2, where the Texans had to get a 3rd down stop. They did. That was that long incompletion because of the coverage by Derek Stingley and pushing his receiver out of bounds, who made the catch, Zay Jones in that instance. Before that play, they motioned Thomas over freaking Ridley. And I'm like, man, what are you doing? And I just thought he hurt the Texans defensively multiple times today. And look, you're right. On that 3rd down, he came up with a big-time stop, and who knows where he would have been without that. But I thought he cost him too many times today. Secondary
wasn't good. The Texans also, frankly, catch a big break, because I don't know what Doug Peterson was doing. And he was sleeping on the job there. You're on the 1 yard line. If you decide to go for it right there, Trevor Lawrence had already got that quarterback sneak over the top. The guy's like 6'9" and 4/3 or whatever. I mean, the guy's huge. And he had done the sneak over the top. You either do that or you do the tush push. You're right there on the doorstep. I can't believe they do a pitch play right there. I had another friend of mine, and he's a Texans fan. He thought it was stupid. They just didn't kick a field goal. You had already got momentum. You had already had the Texans miss a field goal. It's a field goal right there. You knew this game, you could lose momentum right here. He said to the halftime TV people, he said, "Oh, I knew we were going to get the ball back. So how about you get the ball back? If you know you're going to get the ball back in the second half, kick the field goal anyway. Then you get another score. If you're that confident, you're up by over a touchdown." Yeah. I mean, they were lucky because Peterson was brain dead. I didn't like anything he did in that sequence there.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, man. And I don't know what he said in his post game, but I would imagine, to paraphrase, he's probably thinking that in that instance, hey, they just missed a field goal. We drove down. We're on the 1 yard line after big time play. I'm going to suck the ever living life out of this stadium, and I'm going to get 6 on the board here. I think that's what he's thinking. Gut punch in the first half, and it didn't work out. I didn't like what he did, in the second half either, attempting a 55-yard field goal in that instance and missing it, the 3rd down stop that we're talking about, because that breathed life into the Texans offense. And
no. Yeah. I was going to bring that up as well. Yeah. The one later in the game.
Yeah.
Look, he wasn't really good. I see somebody in our comments saying D'Amico and the coaching staff didn't do that great. It wasn't real great on either side, to be honest with you. But let's keep going. 3rd quarter, Texans finally catch a break from the officials. Looks like Petri holds Ingram on a slant. No call. The throw ends up hitting Stingley basically in the bread basket, Shaun. I mean, it's good to see Stingley get that one. But look, Jalen Petri has been Petri pathetic. I mean, he again, this was a game where there was just plays that I hated from him. I mean, there was a play later in the game, and I don't think I've made a note of it, but I'm thinking about it as I'm talking right now, where there was that ETN run where he comes charging in. The Texans just need to get off the field right there as quickly as possible, not do anything overly crazy. It's just like make the basic play. And Petri comes charging in and then immediately takes a block, which takes him out of the play. You knew they were running with ETN right there. He knew it, but he almost took himself out of the look. You got to be there ready for the second level. If you're Petri, if you think it's a run, but you don't come charging in as fast as you can to the defensive line, because if you miss on the line as a little safety, which is pretty easy to do if you get chipped or blocked, he's passed there and into the open field. Jalen Petri, it's gotten to be bad. I'm genuinely worried about him each and every play.
It's feast or famine with that guy.
Too much famine. That's the problem.
It's been too much famine. The Texans, I forget who it was. If it was Bobby Slow, I think it was Bobby Slowick this past week, used the term reckless abandon, in describing Tank Dell and his just, I don't give a you-know-what attitude about being a run blocker in the run game. And he's gotten much better at it. But Jalen Petri defensively has been reckless, and he's abandoned any opportunity to make plays because of that style that he brings. Now, if that can be harnessed, I think Jalen Petri could be an extremely disruptive football player. I really, really do. So I'm not ready to cast him off by any stretch, but you've got to be able to harness it to a degree. If you're D'Amico Ryans, you got to figure out a way to make him more effective. I don't know how you do it.
Well, quit telling me how smart the guy is when the guy does dumb stuff all the time. That's all I'm going to say. And
well, I told you this last week, and I saw it a couple of more times today. There are times, dude, where, and I'm not going to question his football smarts, but he does look unsure sometimes out there on the football field. And it's almost like he's rolling the dice and he just rolls it wrong every time, or it's a 50-50 coin flip and he's just picking the wrong one every time. And I think these are correctable things because, look, guy's got a good frame, plays with a great motor, with great energy. You've just got to be able to get him in the right position to make plays. And too often, he's taking himself out of the opportunity to make plays.
Well, he can't tackle either, and that's another issue. There's a lot of stuff that's adding up to bad, and frame to me is big enough to bring guys down, and it's either he's a terrible tackler or he's not big enough to bring guys down. We'll see. We'll see how this develops over the next year. We'll see what happens, what they decide to do next year. But if I'm the Texans, I'm looking at free agency in the draft at his position specifically. And I'm not joking about that. He is not, to me, a surefire safety starter next year. And he's going to have to earn that job as far as I'm concerned. But Texans take advantage of the turnover. Good run. Singletary puts them inside the 2. Stroud runs it in. You could say the Texans caught a break, but good teams capitalize on those breaks. Sean, you want to explain Stroud's TD celebration? Because I didn't get it. Maybe I'm too young for this. Too old for this. I don't know. Do you know what that was?
I think I know what it was. First off, I think it was awesome. I thought that was a next level celebration, but I think, he was the major or the general inspecting his troops, and he didn't like what he saw in one of them, so he socked them right in the mouth. Who was that? Fant that fell out? I thought that was really, really cool, man.
It was a little too Nazi for me. I don't know. It just, it was weird.
I didn't get Nazi at all. I got Full Metal Jacket vibes from that. I got Arlie Ermy vibes from that, and I enjoyed it.
Jags come back, 45-yard completion to Calvin Ridley. Steven Nelson in coverage. Again, Petri was lost on that play. I'll just throw that in there, and then I'm going to get off of him. It's the 4th completion, though, of 40 yards or longer by Lawrence. Texans secondary struggling. They threw out some stat that nobody had done that this year, 4 completions for 40 yards or more. So that's bad. Then Tavier gets called for those 2 ticky-tack interference flags. leading to a touchdown. Shaun, I know what you think on that. I mean, they were just egregiously terrible.
Yeah. I thought the second one was worse than the first. The second one, I mean, I would have given Christian Kirk an Oscar. He's running, that out route right towards the side judge in the end zone. And he was probably, complaining the whole way, like, hooked me or he hold me, he pushed me, whatever the case was. It looked like it pushed from, the back point, but it wasn't affected at all, just given the relation ball to receiver. So I just thought it was horrible, and he probably should have gotten an Oscar on that one. And it was just one of those kind of Twilight Zone moments, I have to imagine, for Tavierre Thomas. Not only is the guy getting cooked, but he just can't catch a break. He's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And, the refs are seeing what they think they're seeing. And unfortunately, that really, really hurt the Texans at that instance.
And just to be clear, Tavierre Thomas, if you look at his Pro Football Focus grades this year, if you watch the games, he's been great. The guy also, if he's there for a tackle, the tackle is made typically. Yeah. That's why I like Tavierre Thomas.
He made a couple of good ones today. But, let's just be honest what today, it's about today. It's not about what you did. And you can't continue to trot that guy out there if he's getting exposed and you don't know how to adjust to it. You've got to give somebody else another opportunity, because after those two PIs, they scored a touchdown on Tavierre Thomas with Calvin Ridley, who tried to hook Ridley on the touchdown. He got beat badly again, and he couldn't stop him. He was getting beat off the line routinely. Didn't matter. It was inside leverage. It was outside. Just anything, running little stops, snags, anything off the line, he was getting roasted. And so
the second PI was in the end zone, right? That was the second one, and that's the one that they called, that set up the touchdown, correct?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He got caught. That was the Kirk one, and then Ridley scored the touchdown, and he got cooked by Ridley on that one too.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. On the actual touchdown.
Yeah.
Okay. So next Texans possession, Stroud sacked on third down. Shaun, I don't know if you caught what happened here. Tunsil gets cooked like this a lot. Josh Allen untouched off the edge. And let me point out, I have seen Tunsil make this mistake more than a couple of times over the last couple of years, where he doesn't take a guy on the edge. He takes somebody inside, and it's like, it's almost easy to go, well, I thought my offensive line, I thought my thing was to go inside. No, if you're the left tackle, you cannot let somebody like Josh Allen go off the edge and not even try to, like Josh Allen's the first guy, and he does this. And there's so many times where I look, and it's like Tunsil's helping out with the guy on the inside where, okay, now you have 2-on-1 on the inside. You have the guard and you got Tunsil, and Juice Scruggs had that. It was just terrible.
Yeah. I can recall at least 3 times, including today, that's been the case with Tunsil, where he's just not even attempted to block the outside rush. And I don't know what it is. The guy doesn't talk. He's been available like 2 or 3 times this year, and he waits till like Fridays to discuss anything with anyone, and he says about 5 words. So it's completely useless asking him any questions about that, because he's not going to tell you a darn thing. But I am genuinely curious if that is a miscommunication on his part, if that is just game planned, because sometimes you do leave that guy on the edge alone. You don't want to touch him for whatever reason. It might be a read guy, but I would just not even imagine that you would be doing that with Josh Allen, who Laramie Tunsil's played very well against in his career. His numbers, against that head-to-head has fared a lot better for the Texans in games at Jacksonville for whatever reason. But I don't know. You remind me of that, because I will ask somebody on the offensive line that question this week during practice.
There's about 3 things that you said right there that I need to get into. First of all, Laramie Tunsil, the fact that he's not talking, he's the captain, correct, Shaun? The captain?
A captain, yep.
Yep. How is a captain not talking to the media? Look, Dwayne Brown, I was in the locker room for 5 years where Dwayne Brown would be there every single time. And he would talk, he would be available. You could talk to him on the side. Dwayne Brown was there. This is not something that, as a captain, as your best offensive lineman, as a tackle that's so key, and as a veteran on this team, that he doesn't talk. Number two, I also feel like he might be hurting a little bit more today than he has, because we know he's not practicing. Either the not practicing thing is catching up to him and he just wasn't ready, or Shaun, what do you think? Could that knee have been bothering him a little bit more? And maybe the Texans should have made a change right there. Maybe you throw in, one of the other tackles or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I think clearly the knee is an issue. The days of Laramie Tunsil practicing a full week as a full participant, I think, are over, at least for this season, right? And even then, like, he was regularly getting veteran rest days last year. The knee is an issue, to what degree, I don't know. I just think there's a load management program this year for Laramie Tunsil. I think he's probably, getting his knee drained pretty regular. He's probably going to have it scoped in the off season, at least. And you kind of go from there, but, it's a 50% Laramie Tunsil. If the dude's good enough to be out there, you can't let your Josh Allens of the world just breeze past you and, blow your quarterback to smithereens for 12-yard losses. It doesn't happen on the regular, but it happens in big. That was a big time situation when that happened. That was a hell of a time to allow that to happen. And again, I don't know if that is a Michael Dieter line call that wasn't made. I don't know if that was something that CJ Stroud knew was coming and just, the initial hot route wasn't there. I don't know. That's something I'm going to try to figure out this week.
Yeah, I think that was on Tunsil, to be honest with you, because I don't see how I don't see what circumstance an offensive line says, hey, you know what? Let's not block Josh Allen this play. That's the decision we're going to make. Let's not block Josh Allen coming blindside on CJ Stroud. Anyway, Jags next possession, early in the drive, they get yet another phantom secondary penalty on third down. I want to say this was the Steven Nelson one.
Nelson, that was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, and it was a game-changing play because that leads to a field goal. So now it's a 2-score game. I counted in this game at least 5, maybe 7 plays that the refs screwed up on the Texan side, one that they screwed up on the Jags side. I mean, these officials, honestly, the whole staff should be fired, because this was one of the worst officiating games I've ever seen in my life.
I don't know if you saw it, but during the game on Twitter, it was guys like Ed Werder, Scott Van Pelt, tweeting about how horrible the referees have been. It was Van Pelt who was general about it. I was just like, I'm thinking to myself, like, go ahead and say you're watching the Texans game because the referees are horrible this game. But Ed Werder was like, dude, this is egregious. This is terrible. Like, let them play. The one call that I can think that the referees negated to throw a flag on for the Jaguars was one of the worst non-calls for a false start that I maybe ever seen by their left tackle. I thought that was just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's one of the ones on my list of 5 to 7, at least 6 probably. But Shireen Williams, I was going to say, add her to that mix of national people that were talking about it. So Texans next possession, 3rd and 1 near midfield, 9 minutes left. You're probably going for it in that situation with the amount of time that's left on the clock. And Shaun, I hated 3 things, and then you can respond. These are the 3 things I hated. Number 1, no urgency that whole drive, down 2 scores by Bobby Slowik. I thought you needed urgency. I don't know why we were playing slow. It's like 11 minutes, 10 minutes, 9 minutes left. Like, you've got to have urgency. Plus, you had lost timeouts. So that's going to be crucial late in the game. Number 2, it's 4-down territory. Why aren't you running on 3rd and 1? I mean, I didn't get that. Number 3, Why is Stroud going deep on 4th and 1? He needed 1 yard. And Stroud's situational football in short yardage late in games, it's been a weakness. I would rather him try to run. I want him, trying to do something shorter. But it's not like these are guys that he's throwing to way down the field that are wide open. And God, I saw this same situation in the Bengals game.
Well, I'll tell you this. One, I don't know, just like you don't know. Two, Bobby Slowick talks on Thursdays. You'll have to wait till Thursday, and I'll guarantee you that he'll give you a real honest answer on Thursday. He's got a track record of not making any qualms about owning up to a mistake and a play call, and he's very good at describing it and explaining it. So
I don't think the 4th down. Let me be clear. This isn't about play call. This is about Stroud knowing situation. But the 3rd down, ask him about the 3rd down and 1, because did he know at that time it was 4 down territory, and why didn't he run the ball?
Yeah, I think that's one question. And I think why are you throwing on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1? What's the situation? Why are you doing that? And I can only tell you what my thought process was in that instance, because right after the Singletary 3-yard gain on the 2nd and 4 to make it 3rd and 1, I thought briefly, because the Texans kind of went, I think they went fairly quickly there, if I recall correctly. I was thinking, you know what? Everybody thinks they're going to run here. It's 3rd and 1. But just going by what we've seen from Slowick, if there's a matchup that he thinks he can get from the defense thinking they're going to run it on 3rd and 1, he's going to try and take advantage of it. So while that play ended up going to Nico Collins, I'm willing to bet you that without having gone back and watched the play even a second time, that throw to Collins was probably the 3rd option on that particular play. And if that ball was thrown to Tank Dell, maybe it's a close, there's a chance that there's a completion there, because Tank's scramble ability and just in syncness with his quarterback is just different. Collins had maybe kind of given up on the play, didn't have eyes back, and whatever. I don't know. But I'm going to almost guarantee you that he was the 3rd option at least on that particular play. And that's the reason why they decided to throw it on 3rd and 1. And once you throw it on 3rd and 1, I thought, okay, you could still run it on 4th and 1, but just like we talk about almost week to week, Robert, you have to make the defense think for a millisecond that you're going to pass. Play action. And again, it was, you're going to try to take advantage of the one-on-one, and he simply overthrew Dalton Schultz there. You cannot throw on 4th and 1 with such a low percentage play like that. And those are questions that will be asked guaranteed this week. You're just going to have to wait till Thursday for an answer.
Yeah, and this is not, again, when you address it to Slowick, this is not once that we've had this issue where he's throwing 30 yards down the field on a crucial where you just need 2 yards. This has happened multiple times now in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So the Bengals game, I immediately comes to mind. But Jags decide to go for a 55-yard field goal when they get the ball back. Didn't understand the move by Peterson with 7 minutes left. I think you mentioned that earlier, Shaun.
Yep.
You thought it was ridiculous. 10-point lead as opposed to 13 wasn't worth the potential of giving up great field position. Jags missed the field goal, so the Texans still in it. Stroud hits Hutchinson out of the blue. He finds Xavier Hutchinson, for a big play. Then Nico for the 18-yard touchdown. 5 plays, less than a minute, Shaun. It was the perfect drive that you needed right there. And you're going, okay, we can do it again.
Yeah, that sequence was something else, man, because, after the incompletions on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, that felt like ball game.
Yeah.
And the missed 55-yard field goal, even the decision to kick the damn thing, that felt like it just breathed life back into the Texans, because the Jags were doing nothing but driving. And, if you don't have to have the greatest punter in the world, you're an NFL punter, you decide to take a delay of game, try to pin them on a punt inside their own 10-yard line. That's nothing crazy. Even inside their own 15, you're still making the Texans go 85 at least, right, for the score, whether it's C.J. Stroud or not. And we know that they've had issues with up-tempo offense. They haven't used it at times when you feel like they're supposed to. So I thought that was huge. He's good for at least one in a game. And I thought that 34-yard completion to Xavier Hutchinson was just extremely huge there, because that single-handedly, and the Texans went, boom, hurry up at that point, and got the ball quickly to Nico Collins. I thought that was gigantic, because that makes the defense start thinking like, all right, holy smokes, now we got to be on our toes. Texans used tempo at the exact right moment there. And Collins, I said at half, he had one target, one catch, like everybody else not named Tank Dell. If there was one guy that needed to be huge with big playability in him this second half for the Texans to even have a chance at winning this ball game, it was going to be Nico Collins, and he certainly came through and did his part.
Yeah, the other big part about the other thing I should mention on the field goal that they missed, the 55-yard field goal. Mm-hmm. Remember, their kicker had hit 19 in a row. So maybe he was just banking he's on a hot streak. However, 55 yards, he's not hitting that one 19 times out of 19. I mean, the percentage drops precipitously. Not just that. What if that kick is blocked because he's trying to do 55 yards? I mean, the Jags would never have a kick blocked against the wait a second. I think they did have a kick blocked by the Texans and Will Anderson just a few weeks ago. So, yeah, that play dumbfounded me for a number of reasons. So the Jags with the ball now, Texans within a score, so you got to stop them. 3 huge plays by the Texans secondary. Steven Nelson, a touchdown-saving tackle on Etienne's run early in the drive. I mentioned being pissed at Petri, but Steven Nelson saved the day. Then Nelson and Stingley, great coverage, 3rd and 4th down near midfield, both of them. So it comes down to the final drive again for the Texans. I think we're somewhere in the maybe 5 games this year, 6 games this year, where it's come down to one final drive late.
I think it's 7 straight weeks that a game's been decided inside the 2-minute mark.
Yeah, it's nuts. And Shaun, before I get to the field goal decision, I want to go to the 3rd and 12 scramble situation. I thought there were a couple of times when Stroud could have taken off, at least got a few yards to either make it a more manageable 4th down or get in better field goal range. That defensive line had to be gassed. Stroud is way better athletically than any of those guys. He scrambles out right. Now, at that point, maybe he's still looking and he takes an extra second. But when he scrambled out left, all of them moved right except one guy. He had one lineman or one defender on the line to beat. And a lot of those plays were set up down the field. And again, this is about CJ. There's certain situations where you've got to make it more manageable. And a 4th down right there in 5 or 6, even if you can't get a 1st down, it leaves you in better shape for that. It leaves you closer for attempted field goal if you do want to try the field goal there. But he can't be the hero every single time. Take the simple play.
Yeah, I think he actually talked about that towards the end of his press conference today after the game. That's something that's a lot easier said, with the eye in the sky, watching it on TV, than it is a guy trying to make a play and win a game, knowing that without his ability to elude and evade today, who knows where the Texans are in this game? Who knows where this offense is without that ability to just constantly extend plays? But yeah, look, that's something that he's going to have to make better decisions on. There's no question about that. Sometimes take the simple play, but he understands that. He knows that. And look, the Texans have kind of shot themselves in the foot, in a number of different ways in recent weeks, to where they've kind of put themselves in these positions. Last week, maybe no more so than last week, in that win against the Cardinals, should have been a game decided by 20 some odd points. Instead, it came right down to the wire again. And I think you can probably make the same case again today. A little bit more disciplined, and you're able to make the fundamental play, the fundamental tackle, whatever the case may be. I just think these are correctable things for CJ Stroud. And I do applaud this guy today, man. I thought he played an incredible game, just given what the Jags were throwing at him defensively. I mean, they were just in the backfield, just bam at the snap of the ball. And Just the fearlessness of him stepping up at the pocket and sliding and moving and twisting and turning and 360s. And you think he's going to pull it down and keep it, and the sucker, throws it before he gets back to the line of scrimmage a few times today. It was just tremendous. Unfortunately, they just needed one or two more plays, man, to get the job done, and couldn't make it happen.
All right, let's go to the 4th and 12, the decision by D'Amico. Per NFL Next Gen stats, the optimal decision on 4th and 12 was going for the first down. The winning percentage likelihood by decisions. In other words, what's the better percentage move? Go for it, 52.4%. Field goal, 37.5% chance. So, Shaun, it really befuddled me to send in a kicker that hadn't kicked a 50-yard field goal in his life to go try a 58-yard field goal instead of giving CJ Stroud, who's just been incredible in these situations, the chance to get the first down and win the game. Yeah,
I can tell you what I said the moment I saw the special teams unit go out onto the field. I said, wow. And it just took me a few seconds, and I was trying to make sense of it, trying to think, and I'm like, yeah, but damn, it's a 4th and 12. And the way CJ's been having to scramble, it's like, okay, even if he has the time, he would have time. If he had time, well, that means what are you doing if you're the Jags defense? You're in a little bit of a prevent, right? You're going to try to keep something in front of you, nothing beyond 12. We've seen CJ in this offense make that play before, almost in a similar situation. And I don't know. I can't explain it away. I can just tell you without having heard D'Amico's explanation of it. But you know what? Matt's won a game for us already this year. We trust his ability. We know what kind of leg he has. And they figured that regardless of what those percentages that you just laid out said, their percentages, were flipped. And we're going to let it ride with this cat. And you know what? I can't tell you if I've ever and if we will ever see a game in like that again, just knowing what we thought we knew and kind of know about a kicker, in Matt Amendola, where you don't trust him to make anything from beyond 40, much less 58. That was a perfect dang kick right down the pipe. And I don't know the circumference of the crossbar, if it's, 6 inches, 8 inches, but he needed about 2 more inches on that ball to get it through. And that just went to show you just how important every single inch, foot, and yard is in any given football game. That was the epitome of it right there.
Yeah, 2 quick notes on that whole situation. Number one, okay, you're going to send the kicker out, but you're going to have him run out there last second. They had an incomplete pass. There was no need to have him run out there last second. This is a guy that needs every bit of yardage and inch. And now you've got him running, taking away some of that energy that he was going to need for that kick. Number 2 is this is even more important. You already had a 12-man on the field for your special teams. It cost you a timeout. Might have mattered in that drive. I don't know. But you already had one of those on your special team. So now you're risking it by saying, okay, run out there special teams at the last second. And let's, we got to make sure we got 11 guys on the field and all that sort of stuff. There was just a lot I just hated about that.
The Jags saved his life.
Yeah.
At the time before he kicks the dang ball, they call their timeout, and save his life, save the Texans. And, I thought, okay, the Jags call the timeout. That gives Slowick and the offense an opportunity to think through things pretty quickly and make a decision. Do we really want to do this? Do we want to see if we can dial something up here on the 4th and 12, get our best play possible, and let it ride that way? Let's go win this sucker. And the Texans they said, nah, you're going to go kick this 58-yard field goal. Now you got a little bit more time to think about it, man. Let's get it right, And it was just the only word that kind of came to my mind was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'd never seen a game end like that way. It was pretty incredible.
Beast Mode says what we all say is, yeah, we need Kaimi back. yeah, obviously, Shaun,
Yeah.
what are you hearing? What's the situation there? Is there a chance he's coming back anytime soon?
I haven't heard anything. I can't say. That's probably a question that maybe D'Amico fielded post game today, or maybe will, in this press conference tomorrow. So we'll see. I honestly haven't heard anything good, bad, or otherwise in terms of Kaimi. But let's not pretend like it would have been guaranteed. You feel better about it, but I mean, look, I think he missed a 55-yarder earlier this year. I know he had one. I think he botched one like within the first month of the season and gotten a second opportunity on that same instance in that game and missed a 54-yarder or something like that. So, I mean, it happens. Well, you never know.
Well, here's the difference with Kaimi. Kaimi probably makes that first field goal, so it's a tie game at that point.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then what happens at the end of the game? And then if the Texans are like trying to get in field goal range at that point, you go, okay, it's 4th and 12. Maybe Stroud's more confident to make the dump down or run for a few yards because he knows, well, if I can get Kaimi to a 52 or 53-yard field goal, then he's got a pretty good chance at you just don't know how the whole psyche changes if you got a real field goal kicker.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. You still just kind of never know. You feel better about it. It makes our hearts hurt a little less at the time. But I think back to D'Amico's post-game speech after the win last week against the Cardinals. He was like, dang, can we stop, with these he said heartbreaker. This was a real heartbreaker today, losing out on an opportunity to be first place within the AFC South. You had it out. Hell, I think at one point in time, I think the Chiefs are still playing, right? Aren't the Jags like the number 1 seed right now?
Yes.
What would the Texans, seeding have been if they would have won this game? Not just first place in the AFC South, but you go from 7th coming into today's game, and now I think you're 8th at least, until other things, play out in the NFL today. But I mean, this is a big swing. I know the statistic coming into the game was if the Texans would have won, it would have increased their playoff chances by 67%, or they would have had a 67% chance of getting in for sure. And if they lose, which they did, it falls to 32%. And there's a lot of football left to be played. So you kind of never really know, how it shakes out. But it does hurt. Their season's not over, but it does hurt.
Yeah, there was a comment in the locker room off the record. One of the players said it was the worst officiated game he's seen in his entire life. So, yeah, the players obviously pretty upset about that part about it. D'Amico, from what I understand in the press conference, didn't really go there. But, D'Amico, like I said, he's got his own questions and answers from this game. Could Stroud have played a little bit better, made an extra throw here or there? Maybe, but what he did was incredible. This comes down to, Shaun, 2 things. The officiating was garbage, number 1. And then the number 2 thing for me, from my perspective, the Texans got beat up front. They got beat up front. We've seen them play and win these last 3 games. I felt like they manhandled the other 3 teams that they just beat 3 in a row. They were manhandled in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. They got manhandled up front, and they couldn't apply any pressure to Lawrence, and cause any havoc in the backfield there. And it's a darn shame because they did, again, such a good job of, stopping the run. Jags, 81 yards on 30 carries today. I think this is 6 times out of the last 7 games in which you've held the opponent to fewer than 100 yards rushing. And that's something that you can take pride in, certainly. But if you're doing that, you can't afford to get hurt elsewhere. And it's the chunky plays, man. And there were way too many of them today. You gave up the explosives. And look, you couple that with things you can't do a thing about, poor calls from the referees. And, that's why, when you lose games like this, they sting that much worse because not only, they're self-inflicted wounds, but there's pot shots that you can't do anything about that you fell victim to.
Yeah, this defensive line, what they did against the Texans O-line, it's something to think about because the the Browns. Those are real defenses, even though they don't have a quarterback. So you want Stroud to be upright as the season goes on. So that stuff's got to get corrected in a big way. And Juice Scruggs can't play 3 positions now. He can only play 1. So I think he's going to help you a little bit. But Laramie Tunsil, Dieter, whoever plays, has got to be way the hell better. Texans, a huge loss, obviously, but they're still in pretty good shape for the wild card. We're going to talk more about it midweek. Good stuff with the Rockets this weekend. Shaun Bijani has probably forgotten about this, but it was good news for him. I think that Dana Holgerson was shown the door over
forget about that
at U of H. So he might have missed that one. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for checking us out, and stay in touch. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a comment. Let us know what you think of what's going on. Let us know what you think about the Texans, obviously, too, in the comments. But final score in this one, Texans lose it 24-21. They dropped to 6-5. We'll see you in a couple of days.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, you can support the show by subscribing on YouTube and commenting on the videos. Listen to Houston Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and Google. Don't forget to tell a friend and share our show on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.